Hello and welcome to episode 283 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan. As always, joined by Evan Silva to go team by team through the American Football Conference. Evan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and shout out to the arch nemesis Leone and also the great Gary Hartman for very big DFS wins this past week.
Yep, Leone won the Thunderdome on Sunday for $50K, and Gary won the flagship MME tournament on DraftKings NBA last night for $100K. So shout out to Gary. He's been crushing for a while now, won the Millie Maker last year in NFL as well. Okay, on today's show, as you know, we are going to go team by team, highlighting the most important things we saw from a fantasy perspective in each AFC team. Before we get into it, I wanted to remind everyone that the props game is up and running in the NBA. It is separate from the NBA DFS product. NBA props product is manned by 5, 6, 7 people working around the clock on projections and comparing projections to our lines and layering in some context. You can find more on the site about that under the props section and on the subscribe page. Second, this show is brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks.com. If you are not in a state where you can actually bet props, and I know there's a lot of people who can't, New York, California, Texas, etc. PrizePicks is indeed legal and regulated in those states. You can bet their props in parlay form if you want to try them this week. 100% instant deposit bonus up to $100. Use promo code ETR to get the best deal, or use the link in the show notes. Again, promo code ETR at prizepicks.com for the instant deposit bonus and the best deal. All right, let's get into it with the AFC and the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, Lamar was ridiculous, and I don't know if he had like the best real life game. I mean, he played well, but from a fantasy perspective, when he is going to drop back that many times and run the ball 20 times, the ceiling is absolutely spectacular. Other note I have on this game is that Rashad Bateman, I mean, he looks good, man. 20 targets on his first 105 NFL routes run is really, really strong, especially when you're competing with Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown, who's really, really playing well also. So yeah, I mean, this version of the Ravens, we talked about on Friday last week. I mean, the ceiling for the pass game and for Lamar is absolutely through the roof when they're playing this style. What'd you see out of their overtime win over the Vikings?
Yeah, I mean, Lamar is up to the number 2 overall fantasy quarterback on the season behind only Tom Brady. He is just absolutely slaying right now. And I don't see any reason for them to change. I mean, it has been a positive experience. The Ravens moving toward a pass-oriented attack. That's where their best talent lies. Devontae Freeman did look like he sort of took over as the Ravens like main back this past week. But they're still running a multi-man RBBC, and that can change. That could flip against the Dolphins on Thursday. Now, the Dolphins are a little bit of a run funnel. But Devontae Freeman isn't really a guy that you want to stuff with a bunch of carries. So, parsing out the RB situation is going to continue to be something that probably just isn't profitable for, from a rest of season outlook. But this passing game is rolling. My guess is we won't see Sammy Watkins on Thursday night, although he did seem close. But, this is going to be a short week. So lots of Marquise Brown, lots of Rashad Bateman, lots of Mark Andrews.
Let's go to the Bills. Zach Moss suffered a concussion in this game. I don't know if he's going to get cleared. Obviously, if he wasn't, I think they'd use some other guys. I believe they still have Matt Breida on their team also, but obviously Devin Singletary, I think, would likely draw the start if Zach Moss misses this game against the Jets. My bigger question is what's going on with Steph Diggs? And I kind of looked at his underlying stats this year from last year. I mean, the biggest thing is his target share is down 5% from last year, which is significant, but his ADOT is slightly up. His catch rate is down 11 points from last year, like from 76 down to 65. So he's seeing less targets and he's catching less of them. It's small sample still. I don't know if it's fluky or not, but yeah, any thoughts on Diggs? Because, I mean, he's going to be in play again playing the Jets this week, and anything else on the Bills, whose offense is suddenly really struggling.
Yeah, I mean, it's, Josh Allen has been a little bumpy this year. You remember he came out the gates struggling. He's mixed in a couple of bad games. He's mixed in a couple of monster games. But, historically, like Josh Allen, even when he hasn't played very well, he's still been good in fantasy. but he's had a couple bad fantasy games. It's very out of character for him. I think they're going to be fine against the Jets. Is a get right spot. So I think that the Bills passing game is going to be fine, but it's going to continue to be a situation where 3-4 guys are contributing, and now we got Dawson Knox probably coming back. They did not place him on IR, I think, in anticipation of him only missing 2 games and getting him back for the third.
Cincinnati Bengals, I mean, what an ugly game. I mean, and a lot turned on that pick 6 that went 100 yards for Denzel Ward, I believe it was, that the Browns got. But what an ugly game. I mean, they were down 24-10 at halftime, ended up losing 41-16 in what was a really big home division game for the Bengals. From a usage perspective, I think Joe Mixon continues to see targets in base. And so, P. Ryan and Evans were out there, but Joe Mixon's role is fine. Efficiency has not been there. And then when all 3 wide receivers have been healthy this year, Jamar Chase, 25% of the targets, T. Higgins, 24%, Tyler Boyd, well behind at 16%. What you see out of the Bengals' ugly loss to the Browns.
Well, this was a game where, the Bengals pass protection for the most part has been like competent, maybe a little worse, a little, below competent. But in this one, it was like, it wasn't there. I mean, the Browns can rock you with their defensive line. They've got a ton of athleticism. They can hit you from the inside and the out. They've got, a power player on one side and a power plus speed rusher on the other side. And, Malik Jackson and Malik McDowell up the middle. Like, they are really, really talented on the defensive front, and they can absolutely whip the butts of an offensive line that is just a little bit, close to competent in Cincinnati. And they were not competent in this game. They gave up 5 sacks, 12 hits to Joe Burrow. These are the kind of situations that, you worry that could contribute to the Bengals going back in that shell that they were in early in the season because they're worried about getting their quarterback hurt. I don't think that that's imminent, but you worry about the possibility of them going back to playing really conservatively. That would just be my takeaway from this game.
Yeah, Bengals have a bye coming up, and they play Raiders, Steelers, Chargers, 49ers. Let's go to Cleveland, who they played in this game. First game without Odell. And so, the main 3 wide receiver set was Jarvis Landry, Anthony Schwartz, Donovan Peoples-Jones. But, I had a full fade on Jarvis Landry. I didn't have Landry in cash, and I certainly didn't have Landry in tournaments. Like, I just don't see a lot of ways Jarvis Landry buries me when I don't play him, because he's not going off for huge games unless he has incredible volume, and he's not going to get incredible volume in the way that Cleveland's playing. I mean, they're so run heavy. So I don't have a lot of optimism. I know DPJ had a big game. I understand he's an intriguing prospect. I just don't have a lot of optimism for this past game in general. And then the news that broke this morning, Evan, Nick Chubb, Demetric Felton joined John Kelly on the COVID list. We know Kareem Hunt is already hurt. I mean, right now, Dearness Johnson, shout out AAF, is literally the only running back on the roster. So what do you see out of Cleveland's win? And then what do you think about the running back situation?
Yeah, that's just the way that the Browns want to play this year, especially with their quarterback dealing with the multiple injuries to his left shoulder and how, just dysfunctional their passing game has been. They want to be low volume in the passing game, and they want to be high efficiency, and they got that. Baker Mayfield averaged over 10 yards per pass attempt here. And then they want to run the shit out of the ball. And that's exactly what they did. 153 rushing yards as a team. Nick Chubb had 163 total yards, 2 touchdowns, 6.7 yards for rushing attempt. That's exactly how the Browns want to play football this year, and that's how they want to win games. They're not doing the uptick in pass volume like they did last season. I don't think that's going to happen this year. The data, if you look at just statistics, the Browns have been better without Odell Beckham on offense since they acquired him. And I mean, I thought that was, I kind of always wrote that off as small sample stuff. But I mean, now we're at the end of the line. We can look back, and clearly that wasn't a successful acquisition, but they've been straight up better without him in the lineup. We saw how well Dearness Johnson played in that. I think it was a Thursday night game. Dude is a good football player. He is not a big time athlete. The comparison I've used is Alfred Morris in the same sort of running system in which Kevin Stefanski runs the inside zone, just like the Shanahans. The outside zone, just like the Shanahans. And I think that Dearness Johnson is going to get the full complement of snaps if Nick Chubb does not play at New England.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's not the best possible spot. And I do think they'll sign someone. I mean, they'll have to. They can't go into the game with one running back on the roster. But yeah, obviously, Dearness Johnson is set up well. I know. I'm interrupting the video. Wah. But if you're enjoying this video and want to see more fantasy football and DFS content like it, please just take 2 seconds, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. Really does go a long way for us, and we'd appreciate it. Thank you for watching. And now back to the show. Denver Broncos. I mean, what a win for the Broncos. Go into Dallas as 10-point dogs and just absolutely smoke them up 30-0 for most of the second half, where the Broncos, Jerry Jeudy, I think from the ankle has come back well. I mean, he's earned 19 targets on 76 routes run this season, 25%. It's massive. Cortland Sutton, only 19%. Tim Patrick, 15%. A lot of those Sutton games include games that Jeudy wasn't even active for. So yeah, I mean, Jerry Jeudy is commanding a ton of targets. I guess he's healthy. It's hard for me to really tell, but yeah, what do you see out of the really impressive win for the Broncos?
Yeah, again, this is how the Broncos would love to play every game, where they can be efficient on offense, 8.9 yards per pass attempt from Teddy, and then 4.6 yards per rushing attempt on the ground. This is how, and they really played suffocating defense. The Cowboys didn't score their 2 touchdowns until way late in the game. Yeah. So, I mean, a very unexpected result, but, gives a blueprint for how the Broncos theoretically want to play. We cannot free ourselves from this even distribution between Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. Like that's not going away, it looks like, barring an injury to one of them.
Yeah. No, they've both played pretty well. Yeah. I mean, to be honest. Yeah.
Melvin Gordon's been solid this year. Javonte Williams is better, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Houston Texans, don't have a lot to say here. I just, at one point, I thought Tyrod was like so bad, like he might get pulled for Davis Mills, which is just like humiliating, but I thought it might happen. Sounds like they're going to go back to Tyrod this week. Don't think it really matters too much. Anything on the Texans?
No, that's pretty much where it starts and finishes. 3 interceptions, 5 sacks taken, 0 touchdown drives against the Dolphins from Tyrod.
Indianapolis Colts played the Thursday game, and so Marlon Mack gets the healthy scratch after the trade deadline, gets the healthy scratch, and Nyheim Hines went off, and his splits when Marlon Mack has been inactive are pretty solid. If Nyheim Hines can get a little bit of base work and a little bit of pass down work, and then in games they get behind, he gets a lot of work. Like, it's pretty valuable role. What'd you see out of the Colts thrashing of the Jets on Thursday?
Yeah, and the Colts' use of Nyheim Hines was like really impressive. I mean, he lined up out as a wide receiver, running like downfield routes. They gave it to him as both a rusher and a pass catcher out of the backfield. They really know how to use him when they decide to use him. But even in this game, he only had 10 touches, and he's got 10 touches or fewer in 6 straight games. Mm-hmm. So, he's a guy that he's like tantalizing week to week, because you'll see that, hey, he popped up for a big game last week, and then he'll go back, he'll have 4 touches in the next game. So it's very opponent and game plan and sort of field based by the coaching staff in terms of how much work he exactly is going to get. But hey, if you see Marlon Mack inactive before the game, before a Colts game, that is your green light go to seriously consider Nyheim Hines. I think that with Derrick Henry out for the year, it's between Jonathan Taylor and Nick Chubb as to who the best pure runner is in the NFL. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is on fire right now. And then Carson Wentz, I thought that was his best game of the year against the Jets. And he's got multiple touchdowns now in 6 straight games. There have definitely been some ups and downs along the way for Carson Wentz. But, I mean, I think that at this point, like, the Colts would probably make that trade again.
Colts play home against the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday. Not the ideal spot to play Nyheim Hines if you have him. But yeah, I mean, Jonathan Taylor and Carson Wentz set up so well again against this Jacksonville team as we move to Jacksonville. I am expecting James Robinson back for this game at Indy, but Jamal Agnew is like the number one receiver now. Like Jamal Agnew has out-targeted Laviska Shenault 30-21 over the last 4. I think it's kind of, maybe you could just say Urban Meyer's a donkey or whatever, but it's kind of concerning to me on Laviska Shenault long-term. My favorite guy to play in Jacksonville stuff has been Dan Arnold. I mean, he's cheap. He has a 19% target share over the last 4 weeks, caught 20 balls for 219 yards. So just kind of is what it is. Anything on the Jaguars as they get set to play at Indy?
Yeah, Dan Arnold is an every week starter, 7.5 targets per game over the last 4. He can catch. He's a good athlete. He played wide receiver in college, and they're featuring him because they love to feature their scrap heap guys over their actually talented guys.
Let's go to the Chiefs. And I feel like I ask you every week, what's wrong with the Chiefs? The new narrative this week, I don't know if you've seen this, Evan, the new narrative on Twitter this week is that the Chiefs are struggling because everyone's playing cover 2 against them and they can't beat cover 2, which I find it really hard to believe that no one's ever thought to play this style of defense before against the Chiefs over the last 2 to 3 years. But I mean, Patrick Mahomes, 37 attempts, 166 yards at home against the Packers. Like, it's really, really bad now. I think they've covered 4 out of their last 20 games, which is like the lines are so efficient. It's absolutely insane to be 4-16 against the spread over your last 20. It's just like speaks to how much the market is overrating how good the Chiefs team is right now. But yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like I ask you every week, what's going on with the Chiefs, and do you have hope for a bounce back?
I mean, it's a combination of factors. Again, when you have like a truly elite offense, and then all of a sudden it goes, from number 1 to like, I don't know, I don't want to be too hyperbolic here, but somewhere in the 20s, it's because there are a number of things that are not going well, and we've talked about all of them. Cover 2 is one of them, but teams have done this to them in the past, and they like wriggled their way out of it. Like they figured their way out of it, and now it's going on like 4 or 5 weeks, and like they're not wriggling their way out of it. And it's designed to prevent Tyreek Hill from making huge splash plays, and that has been working. So they need to figure out their way out of that. They're doing things. I mean, they are. They're making little tweaks. So they know that there's something, but that there are things wrong. And that's why you see them making. It's why they go, try to get, or they do get Josh Gordon. It's and take a flyer on him. It's why you see them, messing around with Derek Gore, making little changes on the subtle changes on their offensive line. Like they're trying to, they're like grasping at straws to try to find something to help their way out of this. The offensive line's been disappointing. Mecole Hardman doesn't do anything with his targets. It's a lot of different reasons for why a dramatic change would occur, and that's what we're seeing with Kansas City. Now they face the Raiders this week. Last year, these teams obviously played twice. They were great games. The Raiders won one of them. They were both huge shootouts. I don't know if this is going to be what spurs them into the Chiefs, kicks them back into what they used to be. I don't even know if we can expect that at this point. I mean, they're running low on weapons. Like that's factual. They know it. That's why they're, tweaking things within the skill position core.
I actually haven't seen anything about it, but it wouldn't surprise me if they made a play for Odell. And I don't know how much Odell has left in the tank, but wouldn't shock me to see them try to get Odell.
It was just a report that Odell Beckham wants to play for the Packers.
Okay. That would make sense too. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Kansas City would make a lot of sense. No doubt. I mean, you would make a lot of sense as a flyer pickup for a lot of teams right now.
Yep. Last thing on Kansas City is it looked like Darrell Williams kind of reasserted himself over Derek Gore in this game, kind of as we expected. We talked about that last week. Las Vegas. I mean, without Henry Ruggs, everybody was like, oh, I'm going to play Bryan Edwards. I'm going to play Zay Jones. I mean, we had bets on Zay Jones unders, and I wish we had some bets on Bryan Edwards because he had 0 catches on 4 targets. So, yeah, I mean, these guys just aren't it, man. Like, Zay Jones and Bryan Edwards just aren't it. Also, I thought Josh Jacobs was a decent play against the Giants, but, he only ran 17 routes, and Kenyon Drake ran 24. And so that was a little bit disappointing. I thought Josh Jacobs was maybe coming on a little bit more in the pass game, but what do you see out of the Raiders' loss to the Giants?
Yeah, Darren Waller, 11 targets. That was his most since week 1. So you like to see that. Yeah, Brian Edwards, like it's not happening for him. I mean, again, a big, physical, tight window receiver with Derek Carr. I don't know. I don't know if that's ever going to work.
Yeah.
But the Raiders did go out and get Deshaun Jackson. Now, I know everybody will look at his game logs. He always played 6 games in the last 3 years. I get it. He's not a good bet to stay healthy. But from a tactical standpoint for the Raiders, they need a guy like this. Derek Carr has attempted the most 20-plus yard air yard attempts in the NFL this year, and he's 4th in efficiency on them. And you need that element in your offense. You can't have guys like Zay Jones, Brian Edwards, who get no separation on the outside. You need a guy to take the top off, run some clear out stuff, hit him for a deep ball every now and again. So I think that was an excellent addition by the Raiders, Deshaun Jackson. Not that he's going to be a big factor in fantasy, but I think he has a chance to help their offense. You go back and look at any quarterback pretty much that he's ever played within his career. Doesn't matter if he's having a big game or if he's going, 2 for 19. Like, the splits are always in favor of the quarterback when Deshaun Jackson is on the field.
No doubt. Chargers. I mean, you can see how Justin Herbert has these ceiling games. I mean, they're playing really fast and they're playing really throw happy, And so, like, the Keenan thing, I know people get frustrated with Keenan. When you have a receiver whose ADOT is really low, and it's kind of similar to Jarvis Landry. I think Keenan Allen's better than Jarvis Landry, but it's kind of similar in that he needs 10, 11, 12 targets to have really big games. That's what we saw on Sunday as Keenan Allen, I believe, got 12 targets, went over 100 yards. I believe he got tackled at like the half-yard line. Also, this committee at tight end is killing me, man. 43 Justin Herbert dropbacks in this game, 23 routes for Jared Cook, 15 for Donald Parham, 13 for Steven Anderson. I mean, my God, cool. 23. They've demoted Jared Cook to only 23 out of 43. Let Parham be out there instead of Steven Anderson for 28 instead of 15. But anyways, probably not going to happen this year. What'd you see out of the Chargers win in Philly?
Yeah, 3-way tight end committees, not fun in fantasy. So, whereas a bad quarterback will have a couple of bad games in a row and then just go off the deep end like Sam Darnold, you love to see that Justin Herbert has a couple of games in a row where he's not great and then he bounces back and shreds. And I mean, I think that's the sign of a quarterback that is truly a keeper. And of course, Justin Herbert is. I think that one of the reasons that Mike Williams, he hasn't really had a big game in a while. Number one, the knee injury that had limited him a little bit, but also defenses have been really clamping down and trying to take away the Chargers' big plays. And Mike Williams has been the big play receiver, and Keenan Allen is the interior, pure possession receiver. And so I think that with Keenan Allen making a lot of plays lately, that is going to help Mike Williams and things will come back full circle for them. But right now, the way the defenses are playing them, taking away the big play stuff on the perimeter, funneling stuff inside to Keenan Allen, that's why you see a pretty big shift in the production over the past few games in the Chargers passing game.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about this a lot because Chargers are home against the Vikings on Sunday in the late game, and certainly a good spot for Austin Eckler to bounce back and all these guys to have big games. Miami. So it's getting messy again, man. I mean, Devontae Parker aggravated his hamstring injury. He's going to be out a while, if not the year. Will Fuller remains out. Tua is questionable for Thursday. Jacoby Brissett did not play a very good game. Again, they're on a short week playing the Ravens. It's just, it's not good for Miami right now. And for them to give up their first round pick, the Eagles are going to have 3 picks in the top 12 now. The Eagles have Miami's first pick all because they had to get up to 6 overall to take Jalen Waddle, whatever. I'm not going on this rant right now. But anyways, what do you see out of Jacoby Brissett and the Dolphins?
Jalen Waddle had 16.3 PPR points.
I know.
Man.
He's good, but man, they're going to give up the 4th overall pick or the 2nd overall pick for him.
It's supposedly it's a shitty draft though, but
yeah,
whatever. We'll get there. We're going to smash those draft props. I can't wait. I cannot wait. 26 targets for Myles Gaskin. You see that he's not very good, right? by his final output, but he was good in fantasy. And Malcolm Brown, I think this will be his last game on IR, or at least this will be his third game on IR.
Yeah.
So technically he'll be eligible to return in week 11. We'll see. They don't always come back. I don't know. My guess is that Tua is probably going to sit this one out. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Let's go to the Patriots, who got a good win. I mean, down in Carolina, anytime you win on the road, even if it's against Sam Darnold, I think it's a good win. The interesting thing is they lost both Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson to concussion protocol, at least. So, they're already scraping the barrel without James White at running back. Now they're going to get even thinner. Home against the Browns next. What'd you see out of the Patriots?
So if those guys are both out, we'll have Brandon Bolden, JJ Taylor.
Yeah.
Is that it?
I think that off the top of my head, I think that's it.
Okay. That'd be pretty thin.
Yeah, against Ernest Johnson. They're playing each other. Yeah. But we'll see. They could end up getting cleared, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. Same story as usual for the passing game. And then what it comes down to, from the Patriots fantasy perspective is just entirely based on whether these guys, Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, can clear the concussion protocol.
Jets. I can't believe what the Jets are doing, man. Even with Corey Davis out, they rotated six wide receivers. Braxton Berrios played. Jeff Smith played. Keelan Cole played. Denzel Mims played. The good news is that a guy that everybody liked, everybody on fantasy Twitter and draft Twitter, Elijah Moore, looks like the real deal, kind of broke out an island game there. But man, when you're rotating six guys, it's hard for me to be excited even about Elijah Moore. We'll see on Zach Wilson's status and Mike White's status going forward. But yeah, what you see out of the Jets island game against the Colts?
Yeah, sometimes when you watch a dude in college and then he'll get to the pros and he'll look a little different. But I think that Elijah Mitchell has looked exactly the same. My comparison for him coming out was Doug Baldwin, and I thought that he looked exactly like Doug Baldwin in this past game, and he looked excellent.
Yeah.
And that was even with, the Jets are down to their third string quarterback. It's Josh Johnson in there. I don't know if Zach Wilson's going to be back for this next one. We'll have to see.
Yeah, they're playing the Bills. I mean, it's going to be tough to pull the trigger on these guys against the Bills for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, not a whole lot to add there.
Steelers played last night, came back and got a very narrow win over the Bears. So Eric Ebron's expected back in week 10. But man, Pat Freiermuth, shout out Penn State. I mean, we've talked about this, a ton already, but dude is just a natural born touchdown scorer. 4 touchdowns now on 171 NFL routes after he picked up 2 on Monday night, 15 touchdowns in his first 25 games at Penn State. I'm curious, A, what you think about Freiermuth with Ebron coming back, and B, I do think Chase Claypool hurt his foot in this game at some point. I don't know how severe that it is, but certainly something to watch as they're already down Juju Smith-Schuster.
I think that Eric Ebron coming back will take away a little bit from Freiermuth. That, I think he's going to go back from, I don't know, he's been around 75%, 80% of the snaps over the last 2 weeks. It'll probably take him down a little bit. But I think that the rapport that he has gained from being in there with Big Ben, still no Juju. I think that Freiermuth has earned a significant portion of the playing time at the tight end position for Pittsburgh. And I think that Ben has been legitimately looking for him, especially in scoring position. And as we talk about so much, a tight end can go 2 for 20, score a touchdown, and he'll be a top 10 tight end on the week. That's how weak the tight end position is in fantasy. Freiermuth is an every week starter now, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I mean, Eric Ebron, I don't think they were excited about using Eric Ebron anyway, so I'm not too worried about Freiermuth going forward. Last thing we're going to do today is the Tennessee Titans. And so we got our first look at the backfield without Derrick Henry. It was Jeremy McNichols leading the way with 26 snaps and 12 routes. Adrian Peterson, 19 snaps and 6 routes. Dante Foreman gets in there for 12 snaps and 1 route. I'm curious if you think that's the way it will go going forward for this Titans team. And the only other note that I have is my God, I mean, A.J. Brown's target share. I know it hasn't shown up in the box score every week, but he's over 32%, more than 32% target share in 5 straight games. I mean, he's going to have some absolute monster games going forward. But yeah, what do you think about the running backs going forward for Tennessee?
Well, I thought that in the game, McNichols and Dante Foreman looked the best. I mean, Adrian Peterson just got stacked up and buried every time. I mean, you can't really move the pile anymore. I thought the best looking two running backs were McNichols and Dante Foreman, but I don't know. I'm not optimistic that any of these guys is going to be very good in fantasy. I mean, McNichols like sort of has the profile to be a big time PPR contributor, maybe like a poor man's Nyheim Hines, but I don't know if the Titans see him as anything more than a niche role player. They're going to continue to try to force Foreman and Peterson.
Yeah. I mean, McNichols had 3 targets and 7 carries. Peterson led the way with 10 carries and, of course, fell into the end zone for the touchdown. And I think they will continue to use Adrian Peterson at the goal line, which is going to cap some of the stuff on Jeremy McNichols. But yeah, kind of agree that it's a desperation situation if you have to start any of these guys. That is going to do it for this AFC team by team podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on iTunes or anywhere else podcasts are found, please hit the subscribe button. It's free. Does a lot for us. For Evan. For producer Luke. I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.